Here we go. So today, particularly, we're going to be we're continuing the process. We started a woman becoming an Ida. We continued with what happens when she is an Ida, which was our Chakais, which was 2 weeks ago in the snow. We had a quick mention of Vestais at that moment. And now we're going to move on to becoming Tahar. Last week, we did make mention that perhaps the most important share of all we were not planning on giving, which is birth control. And Amir Hashem, we will do that perhaps at the end. We'll see. I mean, we have a credit on a breakfast, no? So we have to utilize the credit if nothing else. Okay. Before I begin, becoming tahar, there was a little bit of I don't know the right word. I don't use the word hate. Hate is a strong word. We spoke about our chakais. Those who were here in the snow, it was beautiful. Perhaps some listened afterwards. And we portrayed the halacha. And there were those that walked away saying, really, that's mutter, and you're allowed to do that, and really, really, really. And the answer is yes. But perhaps there was one detail that we should have added on, which is usually how I start this year. I didn't because you have to know which way you're driving. Because I think, unfortunately, throughout life, as life runs, certain things fall at the wayside. So the way to be machazik them is to know it's not so scary. It's not so scary. You could do it. But within realizing that, we also have to add on the cherry on top is lamaisa. It's pretty scary also. So we're going to start today. Before you begin with becoming tahar, we're just going to start with the Gemara in Shabbos. A Gemara in Shabbos, Daf Gimel, a famous Gemara in Shabbos, which is really all about our chakais. So this is really just a wrap up to the last year. And maybe if one didn't hear the last year and one is wondering what is this thing called our chakais, or I don't really remember much of it, am I really missing out? This will give us the chizik to yes, go back and learn the halachas, the kulas, chumras, whatever you want, at least the halach. So we're just going to begin. Says the Gemara in Shabbos, Tanan Dvelio, an incredible story. Ma'isa b'Talmud Echad. There was a story with a Talmud Shoshana Harbe. He learned a lot of Torah of Akara Harbe. He learned a lot of Chumash. V'shimish Tamid Cham Harbe, and he was Mishamish Tamid Chamim. Sounds like a great guy. And then Umeis b'Chatzi Yamav. He's nifter in half his days. L'chayra means probably it means somewhere in his 30s. Ma'isa Ishtai, his wife, Naiteles Tfilav, took his tefillin. And his wife is going around to different shuls, different batim midrashais. V'amr lahem, and she's saying, "Ksiv b'Torah." It says in the Torah, "Ki chayecha v'yirech yamecha," that the Torah is that which should sustain you. Baili, my husband, sheshana harbe, he learned a lot. V'kara harbe, and he read a lot. V'shidim v'shamid harbe, he did it all. And it sounds like this woman went a little crazy and she's walking around with his tefillin and she's bemoaning. What happened? Why is my husband no longer here? No one wants to respond to this woman. Pamachas, one time, nisarachti etzla. I saw her. Who's I? Tana Devei, who's talking? Eliyahu. Tana Devei, Eliyahu, Elijah. Eliyahu says, I met her. She tells me the whole story. Eliyahu is not afraid of nobody. I said to her, Biti, my daughter, Bimeni Dusech, when you were a Nida, Mahu Etzlacha, what was your husband to you when you were a Nida? Amrali, she says, Chas v'shalom, afilu be'etzba kitana loy nagabi. Oh, interesting. But bimeli bunech ma'u etzlacha, in your white days, which is referring to the Zayin Nikiyim, meaning when it says nida, that's when you were actually bleeding. Meli bunech lapashas is when you're becoming tar, that we're about to talk about in the 7 clean days. What was your husband to you? So she says, what do you mean? Achalimi, he ate with me. V'shasa'imi, she drank with me. V'yashav imi, he slept with me. B'kir of basar. But v'loy also daitel davar acher. We didn't do anything. So yes, we were intimate. Yes, we were together, but we never were mishamish, which is the etzem iser. V'amarti la, Eliyahu Hanavi says to her. It's Eliyahu Hanavi, chavra. So he's allowed to say how he wants it. Baruch ha'makoim shehargoi. Blessed is God that killed him. Shalai nasa upon him la Torah. He didn't listen to the Torah. Sheyamra Torah v'alisha b'nidas tomas lo sikarev. that you can't become close to a woman when she is a nida. That's harchakis. So the chizik, for those who don't know, is that it's scary. The chizik, for those who thought we were too makel, is that yes, it is very chamer. But as always, the impetus of it all is simply to follow halacha. And with that, we dive right into the next step, which is becoming tahar. Becoming tahar. Now, becoming tahar, one might think this is my wife's domain, so why do I have to get involved? But as we spoke about, there are certainly areas that one can be an able accomplice, even if it's just to make mention of halachas, to make sure that one knows what's going on, etc. So really, the tahira process is actually very simple, but yet there are some very simple places that people get caught up. So we're going to go through the process, a nice storyline, and then we'll see how much time we have maybe to fill in extra details. So from the time that a woman gets her period, she now has to wait 5 plus 7. We're all Ashkenazi here, and therefore we talk Ashkenazi. Sephardim are a little bit different. But she has to wait 5 plus 7. What's 5 plus 7? She has to wait 5 days, and then she should begin her Zayin Nikiyim, which means, in very simple terms, a woman Sunday morning today has her period. She counts 5 days, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then on Thursday, she can go and do a Hefsik Tahira. The day that a woman does a Hefsik Tahira is going to be mikvah night. It doesn't have to be that complicated. We start counting 7 days. Is it inclusive? Is it not inclusive? It's very simple. The day of the Hefsik Tahira, a week later, is mikvah night. So again, in our example, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Thursday she does the Hefsik, and Thursday she could go to the mikvah. Now that is all assuming that after 5 days she is clean. She is clean. Now, what is the average amount of time that a woman bleeds for? So as we always say, there's no such thing as an average woman. We don't mean that in a condescending way. We mean that in a literal way, which maybe is also condescending, which is also literal. And we're now within one big circle that we're going to get in trouble for. But the reality is, that is the reality, that there is no such thing. But probably normal is 6 days. Probably normal is 6 days. If one wants to have in their brain, like, what's like a gauge of normal, very many women on the 5th day cannot get a clean hefsek. On the 6th day, they could. Now, I will say, and this brings us back to shear number 1, if on day number 5, when she's trying to get her hefsek tahira, it's either hurting her or it's something that isn't so clear, that's where you ask a shayla. Meaning, if it's hurting your stam, things should not hurt. Things should not hurt. And if things hurt, it's time to speak to a rabbi, to find a doctor, to figure it out. Everyone is too young, and there's too many years ahead of them for them to live life with a part of their life just being painful and saying, no, okay, it's painful. This is what it is. It's beyond bizarre that people live that way. I think it comes from the fact that Lamaisa, it's a sensitive topic. And Lamaisa, it's quote unquote uncomfortable. Now, it's interesting. It's uncomfortable, but just like you're going to go to a doctor if there's a challenge. So it's the same type of thing. So it shouldn't be painful. Maybe we'll give eitzes soon what to do if it is, but it should not be painful. So again, 6 days is very common, but if it's only becoming 6 days because that 5th day, that bedika has pain involved, or there's like a little something there, it does not have to be perfectly clean. This is like, again, I'm speaking certain things out that might be, we'll call them stupid, silly, but if it's even one person that it helps, then the whole thing is kedai. The amount of times I'll see a bedika cloth and I'll look at it and I'll say, there's nothing here. Now, I won't say that to the person because you don't want to make them feel bad, but in my brain, I'm thinking, and when the person dropped it off, like, I'm not so sure, what were you looking for? Then I'll notice that, yeah, there's like a little yellow tinge somewhere on there. It's not pshat. If it's not white, then it's a problem. If it's red, it's a problem. You got to figure out which way you're going. So I'm not saying that anytime there's a bedika, if it's like, oh, it's brown, it's this, don't worry about it. No, chas v'shalom. What I'm saying is that ask the shayla more often than not, as we mentioned in the first year, because you'll be pleasantly surprised. Now, 5 days from when she starts bleeding. Now, the big question is a few times that we can negate the 5 days that we're going to come back to at the end, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to play life in a very regular scenario. Now, life is never regular, but we're going to play life in a regular scenario. And then afterwards, maybe we'll circle around. So again, she bleeds, 5 days, she does a hefsek Torah. This is hopefully the last time I'll forgive myself. I'm saying everything really, really, again, stupid, silly is the way we like to say it. And the reason is because I've heard such horrible mistakes that it's kedai. So that's the hakdama. A hefsek Torah means what the words mean. Hefsek means an interruption b'Torah, which means this creates that you could start your Zayin Nikiyim. The hefsek Torah needs to be done before Shkia. I don't care you're Hasidish, I don't care you're Litvish, I don't care what you do, leave all the jokes aside. It needs to be done before Shkia. End of story. Now you're thinking, but what if it wasn't? Again, that's going to be at the end. We're going to come to the advanced cases. Starting simple. It needs to be done before Shkia. Before the hefsek, something else has to be done. Le toy va sa, which English that means for her benefit. So now, if you're listening and you're saying, I don't want to have to add on something else, it's only going to help you. And this is, she is supposed to wash herself out, clean herself up before the hefsek Torah. However, often we make a mistake because we think, what's the best way to be clean? To clean and then to quickly, no, it's a mistake. I'll maybe try to explain the science very simply. The Oisei Makam of an Isha is very, very sensitive. And when she washes it out, water, ironically, is not a lubricant. It's not ironic if you know anything, but that's, for some it is. Water is not a lubricant. The exact opposite. Water is dry. That sounds crazy, but it is. It is. So if a woman goes and a woman washes herself out and right away does a hefsek, that actually will cause difficulties because her body's going to be extra dry and she's almost certainly going to cut herself with that hefsek Torah, and it's not a smart idea. So if you're thinking, well, we'll get 2 for 1, we'll quickly clean and quickly get the hefsek, it's not true. It doesn't really work practically. Halachically, there's a concern also, which I'm not getting involved with, but what it would be, you'd ask a shayla. But the reality is you want to start about 15 minutes beforehand. She washes herself out. What does it mean she washes herself out? Does she need to have a whole bath? Does she need to have a whole shower? No, she wants to wash out the bottom half of her body. Easiest way is, of course, just to go into a shower and she could just wash herself up. If it's Shabbos, obviously that's not possible. A little bit of water, a little bit of something, she washes herself up. And again, the impetus, just understand what you're doing here is you want to make sure she's about to do a hefsek Torah. Hefsek Torah is we're transitioning. We're going from Tumah to Torah. Going from blood to clean. We're going from Yemei Nida to Yemei Libuna, like we started, to the white days. So we got to be white. So if there's going to be some blood on her leg, inside of her, maybe from yesterday, some residual blood sitting there, and she goes and does a hefsek, that there's no way for any rabbi to tell the blood came from today or yesterday. Blood is blood. So therefore, I mean, there actually is. Trains Rabbanim could tell if it's fresh, and they'll send you to Badekis, but we're not going to talk about that. But the reality is, she should clean herself out. Le toy vasa. You want to do it about 10 to 15 minutes prior. If one forgets, extremely important. Because many women know they got to clean themselves out, and then they do the hefsek. And they know so much they have to clean themselves out that they'll miss a hefsek to clean themselves out, and that is a terrible crime. Never miss the hefsek on that account. Avadi, you should do it. But if not, get the hefsek in before Shkia. Get the hefsek in. We're going to get there right now. Get the hefsek in before Shkia. Excellent. So now the question is, we keep on saying, when do you do the hefsek Torah? Before Shkia. Great. Now, is that have to be before Shkia? Is Shkia just the cutoff time? How does it work? So the answer is, there's 3, some say 4. I'm going to break it into 3 time periods of the day of the hefsek. So again, let's just get clear. She bleeds. She waits 5 days or maybe 6 days if necessary. She thinks she's clean. She's now performing a hefsek Torah, which is a bedika, which again, we'll just state the obvious, and maybe one should just ask spouse to ensure she knows what's going on. Bedika cloth wrapped around the finger, it goes up, you pick up one leg in the toilet in order to make it easier for entrance. She goes in, does not have to push until it hurts, absolutely not, but it does have to go, like usually till about the second knuckle, be'erech, and she does a spin, a twist as she goes inside and comes out. The reason being, you want to make sure if there's any blood anywhere else, because we're looking to create a chazaka. We're looking to create that she's perfectly clean over here. So the most optimal time is right before Shkia. Most optimal time. What does it mean right before Shkia? Within a half hour of Shkia. Now, the problem is life. That's the problem. Today, Shkia is what, 5 o'clock? What's Shkia today? Anyone? 5:10. Perfect. 5:20. Beautiful. So within a half hour, let's call it 4:40, okay? Problem is 4:40, maybe she's out, maybe this kid's home, and she doesn't have time. She's not able to go wash herself out. She's not able to go do a hefsek. So what does she do? So there's another time that's optimal, which is mincha kitana. Mincha kitana is about 2.5 hours before Shkia, which we'll say, let's say about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And again, the reason is we want to be as close as possible to Shkia. Now, if both of those times sound extremely challenging, or if one is prone to forget, any time on the day that one is doing the hefsek, it's allowed, even in the morning. Even in the morning. For women that forget, the best eitzah actually is do one in the morning. And if it's perfectly clean and it didn't hurt and everything's great, then wonderful. Then try to do one later in the day. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt. Now we'll speak about soon how many don't do excessive bedikas. But again, the most lechatchila is right before Shkia. The next is going to be 2.5 hours, mincha kitana. The next is going to be ba boiker. Now, if a bedika is no good. Now, I'll tell a terrible story in a few moments, but before we get to the terrible story, we're up to hefsek Torah right now, which means what is this woman? Tameh. We're creating that she's tahar. Okay? It's very clear. It's very simple, right? Okay. So now what's going to happen is she does a bedika, a hefsek. Let's say she does a hefsek at 10 o'clock in the morning. She looks at it. It's no good. It's red. It's no question. Great. Should she try again? Why not? Now, should she try again 1 minute later? That's silly. That's silly. Now, you might think, what do you mean? Now she's clean. Now she can do another one. It will be clean. No, that's not reality. That's not life. It's not life. You do it again back to back, you're just going to hurt yourself. You wait a little bit, and yes, she could certainly try again. That's another reason to start a little bit earlier, to be mindful of that. If a woman knows sometimes it's a shaila, don't wait to 4 minutes before Shkia and now get into a real issue. So yes, she could do a second one. Usually we say more than 2 is not a good idea. It's usually, again, that's not a rule. It's not a rule. Every person could do what they want. Just we're trying to prevent that she's irritating herself and cutting herself. But she could do as many as she wants. Now, what does she do if she does three hefsek tires? She looks at 3 of them, and the second one looks okay, but the third one not so much. So what does she do? Now, very important, label them. I know that sounds silly, but it's incredible. Someone shows up, hi, here's 3. What are they? They're all hefseks. Which was first, second, and third? I don't know. So now we have to assume that they're all last. And then you're going to make yourself into a problem, because if any one is an issue, you're going to be a problem. Everyone understand the math? It wasn't so complicated. So just label it. Label it. Now, happens to be, if the third one is good, we don't care about the second and the first. If the second one is good and the third one's a challenge, then it doesn't make a difference, because it's the closest one to the 7 days. Now, that's important, because we're about to get to the 7 clean days, and it's going to change. And this is a mistake that everyone makes. I'm going to go right there. I'm going to skip over Moich Tachuk. We'll come back to it. I'm going to skip it for the moment. If you know what that is, great. If you don't know, a little bit of a crime, but we'll come back to it soon. So you did a hefsek Torah. Okay, we're getting the din first before we get to chumras. You did the hefsek Torah. Wonderful. Now she starts her 7 clean days. What does she do in the 7 clean days? There are 2 or 3 things that have to happen. Number 1, bidikos. Number 2, she wears white underwear. Number 3, and this is the one that might have to happen, is she puts a white sheet on the bed, which we'll get to. Let's go in order of those 3, which is also the order of importance. Bedikas. How many bedikas? So before we get to like kulas, the Shulchan Aruch says you do 2 bedikas a day for 7 days. 2 bedikas a day, ba'boiker u'ba'erev, 1 in the morning, 1 at night before Shkia. You do 2 bedikas a day, all 7 days. That might sound like a lot, and for many women it is a lot. So then, what's next? If I can't do 14, I'll do 1. That's ridiculous. That's totally ridiculous. So if you can't do 14, and that it is pretty common that 2 a day is a lot for a woman, so you do 1 a day. 1 a day. It's 7 clean days. The Shalah famously says, you know what else you have to do? You know we count Sfira. The Shalah says she counts Sfira. She says, today is the first day of my Zayin Akiyim. And then on day 2, she says, today is my second day of Zayin Akiyim. No, we don't pass in that way. I mention it almost for the fascinating tidbit of the Shalah. But she should know basic education. She should know she's within the 7 clean days. She should know it's day 2, it's day 3, it's day 4. Also, she should know that because she knows she's getting to day 7, which is mikvah night. And then don't be that person that like, oh, wait, tonight's mikvah. I didn't book an appointment, and now the appointment's not till there. And wait, but I'm supposed to be somewhere else. Oh, what do I do now? Shoot. And like, hello, Shalom Aleichem. You had 7 days. You actually had 12 days to prepare. But you definitely had 7 days to prepare. So that is bedikas. Now, let's say she can't do one a day. Why not? It's hurting her. She's having excessive shilas. So now you should ask a question. There's no klolim at this point. But what's needed, what's absolutely integral, and this is one of those things that, we quote the pasuk that this is where, fools will stumble, to say it in English, Rishayim will stumble, because I'm going to tell you what the Iker Din is. And so I'll just do the Iker Din. Well, it's not, it's Keneged Shulchan Aruch. The Iker Din is day 1 and day 7. That's the Iker Din. That needs to happen. We don't go into the mikvah without day 1 and day 7. Now, if you're thinking, but wait, there was a time I only did a day 1, and the rabbi did let me go to the mikvah. Could be. There are cases of Machlekes Neid Yehuda and Dagel Mervava. For those who know, those are the same person, and that's part of the complication to figure out what exactly happened over there. There's a famous Aruch HaShulchan. Okay, these are shaylas. This is when you have to ask if there's a problem. But Lamaisa, you need day 1 and you need day 7. Most Rabbanim advise also to do 1 in the middle. That's just to help you in case there's going to be an issue in another time. We're not going to get involved in that. Most say do 1, 4, and 7. That's only if there's a challenge. So sometimes in the beginning of one's marriage, a woman had an issue doing bedikas, so she was told by the Rav, just do 1, 4, and 7. And for the rest of her life, she's doing 1, 4, and 7. There's no reason. It could be that whatever the issue was cleared itself up. And again, we remind ourselves, if there's pain, it should not be painful. If there's pain, you ask a shayla. Now, I want to talk about multiple bedikas during the 7 clean days, and this is where the horrible story comes in. Someone calls up and he says, oh, my wife did 4 bedikas, and we think one of them is okay. So, and I think maybe it's the last one. Okay. So where are you holding? We're on day 4 of the Zayin Akiyim. In day 4 of the Zayin Akiyim, so you did multiple bedikas, and one of them is good. So you know what that means? You're not on day 4 of the Zayin Akiyim anymore. Because the first moment that one of them was no good, you just canceled your Zayin Akiyim. Now you can restart, Baruch Hashem, okay, great. You have one that's good, and now you could start again. But people get confused. Say, no, by the Hefsek Taira, we spoke about that you could do multiples to get a clean one. So they get in their brain, oh, okay, I just got to get a clean one. I need to get a clean one on day 1, on day 4, and day 7. So she's sitting there like unfortunately, I don't want to say this, like a tippish. And she's doing, okay, day 4, let's do 16 bedikas to get a clean one. All she's doing is she's hurting herself, number 1. And all she's doing is after the first one was a shayla, she should have stopped. That one she should have asked. Could even be, it wasn't so bad, the first one. Maybe it was a shayla, who knows? And then we could have played with it. By the time she got to 4, the third one was geferlich. Well, that's because she was basically cut herself open. And whatever. Okay, sent to bedekis. Not a bedekis, that's a different conversation. Maybe we'll get to at the end. But the bottom line is, during the Zayin Akiyim, anything that's out is out, and you restart. Now, that is when shaylas become time sensitive, by the way. If you want to know, the one shayla, there's 2 shaylas in the world that become time sensitive, this is it. When you're during the Zayin Akiyim, and it's day 3, and you have a bedika that's a question. So you want to know what to do. If it's good, don't do anything. If it's bad, then what? You want to do another bedika before Shkia to restart your Zayin Akiyim. If you wait till tomorrow, then you just missed the day. This is in the world where things become time sensitive. And this is where it's important to be mindful that it's time sensitive and not reach out to a Rav 5 minutes before Shkia and find out, well, the Rav's not home. So what are you going to do now? Oh, but, okay, we have a problem. Okay, so this is where Ezeu Chacham Harayas and Nailad, and this is where you should know what's going to happen. That is bedikas. On day 7, once you get that clean bedika, you're good to go, which we'll talk about that in the next year when we get to mikvah preparations in Mirza Hashem. So again, lechatchila is 2 a day. If you can't do that, it's 1 a day. If you can't do that, it's 1, 4, and 7. Now, lemaisa, if there's pain, lemaisa, if there is shaylas, so that's where each time it's a conversation what to do now. And that's where a Rav will guide and help exactly what to do. Often, going back to birth control, this year that we have to get to, and hopefully maybe by the time we get there, we'll already know everything. Often, she's on birth control, and she's spotting in middle of her Zayin. Very common. Very common. Maybe it's a maneuvering like I just dealt with one person, and therefore it takes time to regulate. So she's spotting. So what does she do now? The spotting problem is not such an issue. But what happens if she does a bedika now? She's going to be out because the bedika is going to come out bad. So this would be a case that a Rav would advise, don't do a bedika, and let's get onto the right space where we need to be. Lamaisa, if she needs to wear a pad, very important. Lechatchila, she wears white underwear. And the reason is, in case she has any sort of stain, we could see what it is. Lemaisa, this is a world war of a machlekes, but if she needs to wear a pad, meaning she's staining, ask a shayla, but we will be makel. There are many rabbanim that will be makel to allow her to wear a pad. And then, if you remember back to shir number 1, we don't have to care about the stains. Now, how that works is a wonderful shayla, which we could have a second shir on, the lumdis of how it works with a pad, and we're not going to discuss it because it really makes no sense, because the whole purpose of wearing white is to know what's going on, and if you goes onto this pad, she's always going to be tar, so that's called a contradiction. It makes no sense. So some will say, but it's white, so it's called a halachic shtick. We're not getting involved in what it is. Pashas, you always use white pads. First of all, stam. In life, in Jewish life, white pads are better because it allows Rabbanim to help you. It's all l'toivascha. The reason is, if you have a colored pad, you can't see how much blood is in it because it's colored, and it's going to be much quicker become a problem. White pads are always better. If need be, she could wear a pad during Zayin, but one should ask a shayla first. I mentioned that there is a din of wearing a white sheet, and that comes from Shulchan Aruch. The reason why I say it's not necessarily so important is just has to do with a way a woman sleeps. The Paiskim already discussed this, that if she's wearing a pair of underwear to sleep, then there's no purpose necessarily of having the white sheet, because what's the point? If there was anything that's there, it's going to go on her underwear. Now, let's see, she's wearing a pair of pants, whatever it is, but that's where the white sheet comes from, and it's definitely something that one does not have to make themselves crazy of, especially if she's sleeping with underwear. It's one of those things like, chasanim and kalas get all like, they're taught one way, and then they're going away to the parents and start packing the sheet, and like this whole thing doesn't make sense anyways. What are we doing? So whatever it is, lemaisa, if she's wearing underwear, she does not need the white sheet. There is a Rav Akiva Eiger that we'll mention. It's a nice Rav Akiva Eiger. Akiva Eiger says that when she takes off her underwear every night, every morning, we're not getting involved in everyone's personal hygiene. When she takes off her white underwear, Rav Akiva Eiger says she should look at it. That's what Rav Akiva Eiger says. He says the whole purpose of wearing it is to see if there's a problem, so you should look at it, don't just turn a blind eye. This maybe is a first cousin to the shayla of how you're wearing a pad, which we could talk about. Lemaisa, again, statistically, it doesn't really cause any issues. So be makayim b'kiveger, but if one gets too OCD about these things, it's not necessary. And again, looking at tissues and toilet paper, just let's get into the habit. And of course, we can tell someone not to look because there's a clown at the door. We all go look. It's the same type of thing. The more you tell a woman not to look, the more she's gonna look. So let's just leave it. I'm just gonna end, and then I'll take shaylos because I'm at 28 and a half minutes. I just want to end with something called a meichdachik. Now, it's unfortunately a lost art. It's a Sivin Shulchan Aruch. It's a halacha. A meichdachik means that we're creating a chazaka. So when we create a chazaka, we do a hefsek taira, and then we have Zayin Akiyim. What's the bridge? What's the bridge between the hefsek taira, which is the first day, and connects it to the Zayin Akiyim, which then will go into the mikvah? What's that bridge? That bridge is called a meichdachik. A meichdachik means that she does a bedika, she leaves the bedika cloth in her from shkia till seisak chavim. Again, how long those times are, avad is a big machlekes, we'll get to. But from shkia to seisak chavim, let's just use, let's go extreme for a moment, for 72 minutes. Let's just go extreme just for demonstration purposes. She keeps it for 72 minutes, then it comes out. So now you know what she knows? She knows that from the moment of shkia, she did her hefsek taira, it was clean. and now we have perfect cleanliness because there was something inside of her. If there was any issue, she would catch the blood straight into the Zayanikim, and then she has Zayanikim. That is the optimal design that one should do. Firstly, time-wise, in America, we go more with 50 minutes. Eretz Yisrael is more like 35. If that's not possible, then we go down to 15, 20 minutes. If that's not possible, at least 13 minutes. And if that's not possible, then we do away with the meich. So again, it's one of these things that because I count 50 minutes, it hurts me. Okay, so can you do 13 minutes? Many women, it's a misconception. People think, meich is impossible. For a woman who gets clean bedikas, which often it's day 6, so it's not such a big deal, then she should be doing a meich. Lamaisa, after birth, we do away with the meich. Other times of challenge, we certainly do away with the meich first, but it should be a shayla, and that is how it works. So to put the whole story in one snapshot in our 60-second wrap-up is from the day that she starts her period. Now, I didn't discuss what starts her period. What if she has stains and then a flow? Big machlekes, Ramaisha v'chulu. But let's just say whenever she starts her period, wherever you feel that is, from the day that she starts her period, then she counts 5 days. She does a hefsek taira. She does a meich lechatchila. She does 14 bedikas, 2 a day lechatchila, 7 if that's not possible, 3 if that's not possible, 1, 4, and 7, and then she goes into the mikvah. Lechatchila, she should be wearing white underwear. If that is not possible, then she certainly could wear a pad. Again, a sheila lechatchila should be asked, and that is how she becomes tahar. And then part of the chazar I did not mention, when do you do the hefsek taira? Lechatchila, before shkia. She washes herself out beforehand to a helper. And we'll just end, and it's the perfect thing to end with. You could wet a badika cloth if it's going to help her. She could. What does wet mean? So wet means water, right? Or any form of lubricant. Any form of lubricant. Different Rabbanim recommend different lubricants. Right? Wiener used to say, what are you wasting money for? Just go take some olive oil and use olive oil. It's a natural lubricant and it works the best. Now you might think olive oil is colored. It is fascinating. Try it. It isn't. It works out well. He used to tell people olive oil is the easiest, most natural, and you have it in your house. But don't soak the bedika cloth. Stam, it makes things very complicated. Put a dot. Now, some Rabbanim actually say even better than putting the oil on the bedika cloth is she should put a little oil inside of her, which makes her body a little softer inside, and then do the bedika, which will allow everything to be smoother. If a woman has any sort of challenge, any sort of pain, that's the first eitzah. First eitzah before anything else, and you don't even have to ask anyone. She can just try that one, and that will certainly help. Siyata Shmaya. We should keep me just out in this last. Let me just say it straight, because if people are confused, let me just say it one more time straight. Hefsek is before Shkia. Let's go. Let's pretend today was the 5th day. So today, Hefsek is before Shkia. Tomorrow, Monday, is Bedika number 1. Okay? Now, officially, Tuesday, Wednesday, then next week, Shabbos will be Bedika 7, 1 and 7, Sunday and Shabbos. No, I said that wrong. Sunday and Monday, thank you. Let me get my case. Let's get it straight. Hefsek Taira on Sunday. Monday is Bedika 1. Sunday is Bedika 7. And mikveh night is Sunday night. So if you want to know what's li'i kuva, if you remember one thing, that's why we're doing this right now. Remember this. Hefsek Taira is on day 5 before Shkia. Bedika day 1 is the next morning. Bedika day 7 is day of mikvah, which is the same day of Hefsek Taira. And then she go to the mikveh. Everything else is necessary, required, and important. But if you miss those 3, kol tov, it's all over. Shkayach.